It all started with a whisper on deck, someone claiming she didn't belong there. When Ava stepped onto the luxury yacht wearing a simple sundress and flip-flops, she didn't exactly fit the look of the high-profile crowd, already lunging with champagne and designer sunglasses. A few of the guests exchanged smug glances, and within minutes, a crew member approached her with a polite but firm tone. "Ma'am." The guests were now fully tuned in, some recording on their phones, waiting for a scene. They thought they were about to watch someone get embarrassed and escorted off, but Ava didn't flinch. She pulled out her phone, made a single call, and within seconds, the captain himself appeared, clearly confused, a little nervous, and very much unprepared for what came next. Ava pointed at him and calmly said, "You're done. Get off my yacht." Stunned silence swept across the deck. No one moved. No one spoke. Who was this woman? And how did she have the power to fire the captain of a multi-million-dollar vessel right there on the spot? What happened next left everyone speechless. The captain, visibly taken aback, stood frozen for a moment, as though processing what had just been said. The guests, who'd been eagerly anticipating the drama, began to murmur in confusion. Some were certain this was just a prank, but others started to sense something deeper at play. Ava wasn't just some random guest trying to make a scene. There was an air about her that felt entirely different, something that made even the seasoned crew hesitate. The captain cleared his throat, his voice now tense. "I'm afraid I don't understand, ma'am. You're not listed on the manifest." He glanced nervously at the crew members behind him, who were equally unsure about how to proceed. Ava remained was well known. No one could have predicted that the woman they barely acknowledged was its true owner. Ava's phone buzzed again. Another call. She didn't answer, but the crew could see the name on the screen. Sophie in bold letters. That was the moment the pieces started to fall into place. Who was Sophie? Why did Ava seem so connected to the yacht industry? The tension on the deck escalated, and it was clear something much bigger was unfolding. The captain hesitated for a moment longer, glancing nervously at the crew members who were now exchanging uncertain looks. Ava's calm but powerful presence was undeniable. It was clear that she wasn't going to back down. The guests, once smug and amused by the idea of a confrontation, were now quiet, their curiosity turning to anxiety. What had started as a social event had turned into something much more intriguing and dangerous. Jason, one of the guests who had been observing the entire situation from the bar, couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just an argument over a reservation mistake. He leaned toward his friend, whispering, "Do you think she's really the owner? She doesn't look like someone who'd own this kind of yacht." His friend, Claire, shook her head. "I don't know. But if she is, that means we've been making fun of someone with more power than we can imagine." The words hung in the air, unspoken guilt beginning to settle in. Meanwhile, Ava's phone buzzed again, but this time she picked up. She spoke softly but with authority. "Yes, Sophie, I've handled it. No, I'm not leaving." The voice on the other end was calm but urgent, and Ava's response was quick and sharp. She ended the call with a sigh, and then turned her gaze back to the captain. "You're not leaving either, but your position on this yacht is no longer necessary." The crew shuffled uncomfortably. No one had ever seen a situation like this on a luxury yacht before, and no one knew what the next move would be. Ava had an air of control that seemed to unsettle everyone around her, and no one knew who to side with, the captain or this mysterious woman whose power was yet to be fully understood? The air was thick with tension. Guests shifted uncomfortably, avoiding eye contact with one another, their earlier laughter now replaced with uneasy silence. Some took subtle glances at Ava, trying to read her, but her expression remained calm, almost distant. She was unshaken. Meanwhile, the captain stood, his posture stiff, struggling to regain control of the situation. His eyes darted toward the crew, then back to Ava, unsure of what she might do next. Jason, now leaning against the bar with a drink in hand, couldn't help but feel the weight of his earlier judgment. He had thought Ava was just another pretentious one-ape, but now everything had changed. There was something undeniably commanding about her. He could sense that everyone around him was trying to figure out whether they should side with the captain or the woman who had just thrown their world upside down. He saw Claire whispering something to another guest, but no one was really listening anymore. Their attention was fixed on Ava and the captain. Ava's phone buzzed again. She glanced at it briefly, then turned to the captain. "It's done. You'll be off the boat in 10 minutes. The captain's face flushed, but he didn't argue. Instead, he stepped aside, signaling to one of the crew members to take over. But the tension didn't let up. If anything, it only grew. Everyone waited, holding their breath. Ava was about to do something that could change everything. Would she really go through with it? Would the captain walk off the yacht? And who exactly was behind her power? The next few minutes felt like an eternity. Just as the tension reached its breaking point, the unexpected happened. The captain, who had been waiting for the moment to walk away, suddenly paused. His hand trembled as he reached for his earpiece and turned toward the crew member standing nearby. A hushed conversation took place, barely audible to anyone else, but the change in his demeanor was immediate. His confident stance faltered, and his eyes shifted nervously to Ava. It was then that the true weight of the situation hit everyone. The captain, a man who'd commanded some of the world's most luxurious yachts, was no longer in control. Ava wasn't just some powerful figure. She had leverage that even he couldn't ignore. The crew, too, seemed rattled, their professional demeanor crumbling under the pressure of an unseen force. Then, just as Ava prepared to make the next move, a sleek black car sped up to the dock, drawing the attention of everyone nearby. Two suited men stepped out, their movements precise, almost military in their efficiency. The captain's face turned pale as they approached. "We have a situation," one of the men said to him in a low voice, his gaze flicking toward Ava. "It's time to move." The room grew colder as the realization settled in. These men weren't just security, they were fixers. Ava's world was one of power, money, and influence on a level none of the guests had imagined. As the suited men exchanged a brief look, Ava's phone buzzed again, this time with a single word, proceed. The game had changed. The suited men moved with purpose, their eyes locking with Ava's, their presence commanding the room. The captain, now visibly shaken, stepped aside. His pride was gone, replaced by the realization that he had no power here. Ava's control over the yacht, the crew, and everyone on board had become undeniable. She calmly gestured to the suited men, and one of them handed her a set of papers, which she glanced over briefly before turning back to the captain. "This is your termination notice, effective immediately." Her voice was cool, as if she were reading a script. No one could deny the weight of her authority now. But just as the captain opened his mouth to protest, one of the crew members stepped forward. His uniform was crisp, his face pale. He hesitated, then spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. "Ma'am, there's something you should know /." The yacht was never fully under your control. There are other shareholders." The room went quiet. Ava's face didn't shift, but something in her eyes changed. She knew this wasn't over yet, but she had one final card to play. With a quick motion, she reached for her phone and tapped a few buttons. The screen flashed with an urgent message. "Get the deal finalized. Now." The suited men exchanged a glance, and in that instant, the ship's systems powered down. The lights flickered, the hum of the engines gone. Every single person on board understood the message loud and clear. Ava's influence was absolute. A sudden realization hit. The yacht wasn't just hers. It had been bought, secured, and locked down within minutes. Ava wasn't just a player. She was the game. And no one had even seen it coming. The tension on the yacht was palpable. As the lights flickered and the engines fell silent, the realization hit everyone. They were no longer just guests. They were witnesses to something much larger. Ava's quiet dominance had shifted the entire atmosphere. The guests who had once laughed at her, questioning her place, now stood in stunned silence, realizing they had been part of a carefully orchestrated power play they hadn't understood. Ava looked around at the crew, the guests, and then back at the captain, who stood frozen, his authority evaporated. "You're free to go," she said, her tone soft but final. The captain didn't speak again, his pride shattered. The suited men ushered him off the yacht with a kind of precision that made it clear this was no ordinary firing. As the yacht's systems slowly powered back up, Ava turned her attention back to the guests. Her phone buzzed again, but this time it was a simple message: all set. The deal had been completed. With a final glance, Ava addressed the remaining guests, her voice calm but unyielding. "Enjoy the rest of your evening." She turned and walked toward the helm, leaving the crowd behind, trying to digest everything they did, with everyone rethinking their own place in the world. And Ava, she had just shown them that sometimes true power isn't about being seen, it's about controlling the game from the shadows.